I came home early and found my wife in bed with her coworker. Actually, that's not how it happened. But 3 months ago, when I walked into that private dining room at the Capitol Grill, watching Ryan Caldwell wrap his arm around Vanessa's shoulder, while 20 of her colleagues pretended not to notice, I realized the affair had been going on long enough that they'd stopped hiding it. Ryan saw me first. His smile got wider. "Marcus?" His voice cut through the polite conversation like broken glass. "Hey everyone, this is Vanessa's husband. Tell us, buddy, how does it feel?" The room went quiet, not silent. You could still hear the clink of wine glasses, the soft jazz bleeding through the speakers. But every conversation stopped. Every eye found somewhere else to look. I stood in the doorway holding my invitation. Someone had sent it to me. Maybe HR following protocol. Maybe someone who wanted to see what would happen. Either way, I'd shown up. "How does what feel, Ryan?" My voice came out calm, steady. I'd practiced this. He laughed, that big confident laugh that probably closed deals. "Come on, man, don't be shy." He squeezed Vanessa's shoulder. She didn't pull away. "Must be nice having a wife who actually makes money, huh? What do you do again? Something with computers?" "Data analysis." Right, data entry. I always get those confused. A few people shifted in their seats. Jennifer from accounting stared at her salad. Tom from operations checked his phone. Vanessa looked at the wall. She wasn't going to defend me. I already knew that. But seeing it confirmed something. "Must be nice having a VP title," I said. "How long do you think that'll last?" His smile flickered, just for a second. "What's that supposed to mean?" I shrugged, smiled. Not a big smile, just enough. "Nothing. Congratulations on the promotion." I found an empty seat near the end of the table, ordered the salmon, made small talk with Jennifer about her daughter's soccer team. Ryan kept glancing at me, trying to figure out what I knew. He thought he'd humiliated me. He had no idea I'd already won. Here's what Ryan didn't know. At 8 o'clock that morning, my attorney filed divorce papers in Denver County Court. At 9:15, a judge granted an emergency asset freeze on our joint accounts. By 10:30, Vanessa's credit cards had stopped working. At 11, I'd met with a forensic accountant who'd spent the last 2 weeks building a case against Ryan that would end his career. At noon, I'd confirmed a consulting contract worth more than I'd made in the last 3 years combined. And at 7:45, I'd walked into this dinner with divorce papers in my jacket pocket and a plan that Ryan's ego was too big to see coming. I let him talk. I let him make jokes about my job, my clothes, my car. Every word was another nail in his own coffin. Every laugh from his corner of the table was documented. Every time Vanessa looked away, instead of defending me, I felt the last thread of guilt snap. By the time dessert arrived, Ryan had moved on to other topics. The Meridian tech deal he was closing, his new Tesla, the condo he was looking at in Cherry Creek. I ate my cheesecake and said nothing. But the divorce was just the beginning of Ryan's very bad week. To understand how I got there, how I went from the guy who trusted his wife to the guy who systematically dismantled her affair partner's life, you have to go back 3 weeks. 3 weeks earlier, I'd been the fool who trusted her. But that was about to change. It started with a phone. More specifically, with the way Vanessa had started sleeping with hers tucked under her pillow. When did she start sleeping with her phone under the pillow? I lay in bed one Tuesday night, staring at the ceiling, trying to remember. A month ago? 2? The change had been gradual enough that I couldn't pin down the exact moment my wife had started treating her phone like classified documents. There were other things, small things. The way she'd angle the screen away when I walked past. The way she'd started taking calls in the car, in the garage, anywhere but near me. Work stuff, she'd say. Boring sales calls. Vanessa was regional sales director at TechPoint Solutions. Long hours came with the territory. Late meetings, client dinners, company events where spouses weren't invited. I'd trusted her. For 6 years, I'd trusted her completely. I rolled over. Her phone screen glowed under the edge of the pillow. A notification. She stirred, grabbed it, silenced it without waking up. The next morning, I found the hotel receipt. I wasn't snooping. Not intentionally. Vanessa had asked me to grab her jacket from the closet, the gray one she'd worn to Monday's meeting. I reached into the pocket for her keys. My hand found paper instead. The Crawford Hotel. Room 847. One night, $473 charged to our joint visa. I stood there holding it, my brain trying to make it make sense. A work event? But she'd come home that night, I remembered. We'd eaten leftover Thai food and watched Netflix. I pulled out my phone, opened our credit card app, started scrolling. The Crawford Hotel appeared 6 times in the last 4 months. Always midweek, always the same price range. Then I saw the dinners, Rioja, the Nickel, Guard, and Grace, high-end restaurants, all charged to our joint card, all on nights she'd said she was working late. My hands started shaking. I scrolled further. There, another hotel, the Maven, 3 nights over the course of 8 weeks. One of those dates was our anniversary, September 14th. She told me she had an overnight sales conference in Colorado Springs. I'd ordered takeout and watched the Broncos game alone. They'd celebrated our marriage by breaking it. I sat down on the closet floor, still holding her jacket. My chest felt tight. My throat felt like someone had their hands around it. The bedroom door opened. "Marcus, did you find my—" Vanessa stopped. "What are you doing?" I looked up at her. She was already dressed for work, professional, put together, beautiful, still. That made it worse. "Late meeting?" I held up the receipt. Her face changed. Not guilt exactly, more like annoyance at being inconvenienced. "Marcus, don't what? Don't make this into something it's not. What is it?" She sighed, checked her watch. "I don't have time for this right now. I have a presentation at 9. "Vanessa, we'll talk tonight, I promise." She grabbed the jacket from my hand, took the receipt, and walked out. We didn't talk that night. She came home at 11 and went straight to bed. I couldn't sleep. At 2 a.m., I was still staring at the credit card statements on my laptop. The pattern was clear once you saw it. Every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 4 months. Sometimes hotels, sometimes just dinners that cost more than our mortgage payment. And they were always the same days she had late meetings with Ryan Caldwell. Ryan, VP of Business Development. The guy who joined TechPoint 8 months ago. The guy Vanessa had mentioned so many times I'd stopped listening. Ryan thinks we should pursue enterprise clients. Ryan says the sales strategy needs to shift. Ryan wants to celebrate the team's Q3 numbers. Ryan was sleeping with my wife. I needed proof, something more than receipts and suspicious timing, something undeniable. So, Thursday night, when Vanessa said she had another late meeting, I followed her. I'm not proud of it. I felt like a character in a bad movie, sitting in my Honda 3 cars back, watching her wowdy navigate downtown Denver traffic. But I needed to know. I needed to be certain before I did anything that couldn't be undone. She pulled into the Crawford Hotel parking garage at 7:30. I parked on the street, walked to where I could see the entrance. 10 minutes later, Ryan Caldwell showed up, suit jacket over his arm. That confident stride like he owned the place. Vanessa met him in the lobby. I watched through the glass doors. She smiled, really smiled, the way she used to smile at me. He said something. She laughed and touched his arm. They walked to the elevators together. I stood on the sidewalk with my phone in my hand. I could have stormed in, made a scene, confronted them right there in the hotel lobby. Instead, I took 3 photos. Wide shots, clear faces, date and time stamp visible. Then I got in my car and drove to my brother's house. Tom opened the door in sweatpants and a Broncos jersey. Took one look at my face. Jesus, Marcus, what happened? Can I crash here tonight? Of course, but I'll explain inside. We sat in his kitchen. He poured whiskey. I told him everything. The phone, the receipts, the hotels, the photos I'd just taken. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. So what's the plan? I don't know. I can't think straight. Marcus. He leaned forward. You own that house together, right? Yeah, we bought it 5 years ago. How much equity? $740,000, give or take. And you've got joint savings? $420,000. Tom whistled. And no prenup? No, I didn't think... I stopped. I didn't think I needed one. This is Colorado, community property state. If you file for divorce without a strategy, she gets half of everything. The house, the savings, your 401k. He paused. You're fucked unless you're smart about this. My phone buzzed. Vanessa. Where are you? I turned it off. I need a lawyer, I said. Yeah, you do. Tom stood up, grabbed his own phone. I know someone, Sarah Whitman. She's a shark. Handled my buddy Dave's divorce last year. High asset case. Dave walked away clean. Can you text me her number? I'll do better than that. He was already dialing. I'll call her right now. Sarah? Yeah, it's Tom Brennan. Sorry to call late. I've got a situation. My brother. He needs help. Can you see him tomorrow? He listened, nodded. 8 a.m., perfect. Thanks, Sarah. I owe you. He hung up. She'll meet you at her office, downtown, 16th Street Mall. I'll text you the address. I stared at my empty glass. I don't even know what to say to a divorce attorney. You tell her the truth, show her the photos, show her the receipts, and then you let her tell you how to get your life back. I looked at him. What if I can't do this? Marcus? Tom's voice was firm. What if you can? Sarah Whitman's office was on the 16th floor of a glass tower on 17th Street, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, minimalist furniture, law degrees from Columbia on the wall. She was younger than I expected. Early 40s, maybe. Sharp gray suit. No wedding ring. She shook my hand with the grip of someone who'd learned to command rooms full of men who underestimated her. Tom says you need help. She gestured to a chair. Tell me everything. So I did. The phone, the hotels, the credit card statements, the photos from Thursday night. She listened without interrupting, took notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she looked up. Do you want justice or revenge? What's the difference? Justice is getting what you're entitled to under the law. Revenge is making sure she knows she made a mistake. She leaned back. I can give you both, but I need you to be honest with me. Are you willing to do this right, or do you want to blow it up emotionally? I want to do it right, I paused, but I want her to know she made a mistake. Good. Sarah flipped to a fresh page. Here's what we're going to do. First, you document everything. Every hotel charge, every dinner, every suspicious text timestamp. Build a case that shows she's been dissipating marital assets on the affair. Dissipating? Legal term. It means wasting joint money on something that doesn't benefit the marriage. The court doesn't like cheaters spending community funds on their affairs. She made a note. Second, we file for an emergency asset freeze. If she's been charging affair expenses to your joint accounts, we argue she'll continue to do so. The judge can freeze access until the divorce is finalized. How fast can we move? If your evidence is solid, I can file the freeze motion within 48 hours. She looked at me. But Marcus, once we do this, there's no going back. She'll know, and she'll fight. I know. Do you have somewhere else to stay? My brother's. Good. Don't go back to the house alone. Don't delete anything from your phone or computer. Don't post on social media. Don't talk to anyone about this except me and Tom. She stood up. And Marcus? Start thinking about what you want: the house, the savings, half her unvested stock options. She has stock options. If they were granted during the marriage and haven't vested yet, you're entitled to a portion under Colorado law. She smiled, sharp, professional. Surprised? Yeah, most people are. That's why they hire me. I spent the next week building the case. Turns out 6 years of data analysis training is useful for more than corporate reports. I created a spreadsheet. Every hotel charge going back 8 months, every suspicious dinner, every late-night Uber. I cross-referenced her calendar with credit card timestamps, found patterns, tracked spending, total affair expenses charged to our joint accounts. $8,300. $8,300 of my money spent on hotel rooms where my wife fucked her coworker. I sat at Tom's kitchen table at 2 a.m., staring at the numbers. My chest felt hollow, but my head was clear. By the end of week 1, I had a 40-page dossier. By the end of week 2, I had a strategy. Sarah called me on a Wednesday afternoon. The judge granted the freeze, emergency motion, effective immediately. What does that mean? It means Vanessa's credit card stopped working about 30 seconds ago. I could hear the satisfaction in her voice. And Marcus, her attorney just called. She's panicking. Good. There's something else. You mentioned her coworker, Ryan Caldwell. Yeah. I have a contact who does forensic accounting, private investigation type work. If you want to know if Ryan has any skeletons, David Park can find them. How much does that cost? $5,000 retainer. But if there's something there, and there usually is with guys like Ryan, it could give us leverage. I thought about the $8,300 Vanessa had spent on hotels. Do it. David Park looked like an accountant. Glasses, button-down shirt. The kind of guy who'd disappear in a crowd. But when he pulled up his laptop in Sarah's conference room 3 days later, I realized he was the most dangerous person I'd met. Ryan Caldwell. David opened a file. VP of Business Development at TechPoint Solutions, 47 reports, manages $89 million in active contracts, including the big one, Meridian Tech, $8.9 million deal he's been working for 6 months. What about him? His expense reports are creative. David turned the laptop so I could see. $15,000 in client dinners at restaurants I called. The clients were never there. He's stealing? He's committing expense fraud, charging personal expenses as business costs. David scrolled. There's more. He's leveraged personally, bought a new Tesla on credit, put a deposit on a Cherry Creek condo he can't afford unless the Meridian deal closes. And that deal, it's contingent on him. He's the relationship holder. If he gets terminated, the deal probably falls apart. I stared at the screen. Can you prove the expense fraud? Already did. I have credit card receipts that don't match his submitted expense reports, restaurant confirmations, paper trail. He looked at me. What do you want me to do with this? Can you send it to TechPoint's CFO anonymously? Sarah cut in. Marcus, think about this. Once you do that, Ryan's going to know someone's coming after him. Good. He should know. You're sure? I thought about Ryan's arm around Vanessa's shoulder, his voice asking how it felt. Send it. David nodded. I'll draft an anonymous email. Attach documentation. Send it from an encrypted account. TechPoint's compliance department will have to investigate. How long until he's fired? If they follow protocol, 2 to 4 weeks. They'll audit his expenses, interview witnesses, build their own case. But Marcus? David closed his laptop. He's done. This kind of fraud doesn't get second chances. That's when I realized Ryan had handed me the weapon to destroy him. Sarah filed the divorce papers on a Monday morning. Adultery as grounds, dissipation of marital assets, request for unequal distribution in my favor. Vanessa was served at work. The process server walked into TechPoint's office at 2 p.m. and handed her the papers in front of her team. I know because Tom's buddy still worked there. He texted me a photo. Vanessa standing in her office, papers in hand, face white. I was already moved out. Tom had helped me pack everything I owned into my Honda the day before. I'd rented a one-bedroom apartment in Cherry Creek, furnished, month-to-month lease. It was smaller than our spare bathroom, but it was mine. Vanessa called 17 times that afternoon. I didn't answer once. At 6 p.m., she left a voicemail. Her voice was different, higher, panicked. "Marcus, what the hell? You filed for divorce? You froze the accounts? I tried to buy groceries and my card got declined. Call me back right now." I played it for Tom that night, over pizza. "She sounds upset," he said. "You think?" He grinned. "How do you feel?" "Honestly?" I set down my beer. "Like I can breathe for the first time in months." "That's called freedom, little brother." But Vanessa wasn't done fighting. 3 days later, Sarah called. She hired Mitchell Barnes. Who? Aggressive divorce attorney. Expensive. He just filed a counter motion claiming you've been emotionally abusive and controlling. They want spousal maintenance, half your 401k, half the house equity, and they're painting you as vindictive. I have photos of her walking into a hotel with Ryan. I know. That's why Barnes is going hard on the emotional abuse angle. If they can make you look unstable, it weakens your dissipation argument. Sarah paused. "Marcus, they're going to come at you hard. Can you handle it?" "Do I have a choice?" "Not really. But I need to know you won't do anything stupid. Don't contact her. Don't respond to her texts. Don't post anything online. Let me handle this." "What if she keeps pushing?" "Then we push back. I have text messages where she tells Ryan she's stringing you along until her stock options vest next year. That's Exhibit A in our dissipation case." I sat up straighter. "She said that?" "You gave me access to your phone records, remember? I pulled all text metadata, found some interesting iMessage backups." Sarah's voice was ice. "Your wife isn't as smart as she thinks she is." "Send them?" "Already attached to our response brief, filed this morning." She paused. "Marcus, you prepared for this. You documented everything. You were 3 steps ahead." Another pause. "How did you know to do that?" "I'm a data analyst. Pattern recognition is kinda my thing." She laughed, the first time I'd heard her really laugh. "Remind me never to piss you off." But even as I hung up, I knew this was just beginning. The divorce was a war. And I just fired the first shot. The apartment in Cherry Creek was 700 square feet. 1 bedroom, galley kitchen, a view of the parking lot. It was the opposite of the house Vanessa and I had bought 5 years ago. That house had vaulted ceilings and a chef's kitchen and a backyard where we'd talked about putting in a pool someday. This apartment had beige carpet and a refrigerator that hummed too loud, but it was mine. Nobody else's name on the lease. Nobody else's credit card paying the rent. I set up my laptop on the dining table that doubled as my desk, logged into work, tried to focus on quarterly forecasts and data models while my phone buzzed with texts from Vanessa that I didn't read. My manager noticed. "Marcus, you okay? Your analysis on the Henderson account seemed off." "I'm fine, just distracted." "Family stuff?" "Something like that." I wasn't fine. I was running on 4 hours of sleep and cold pizza, and the kind of adrenaline that comes from dismantling your entire life. My work was suffering. My focus was shot. I'd catch myself staring at spreadsheets without seeing them, my mind replaying the moment I'd found that hotel receipt. Tom called on a Saturday morning. "You busy?" "Not really." "Good, I've got something for you." He paused. "Remember, I mentioned I know some business owners who need help with their books?" "Yeah." One of them, James Mitchell, owns a manufacturing company out in Commerce City, makes custom industrial parts. He's trying to figure out why his margins are shrinking. I told him you're the smartest guy I know with data. "Tom, I don't know manufacturing." "You know numbers. That's all he needs. $1,500 for a week's work. Interested?" I thought about my apartment rent, the retainer I'd paid Sarah, the consulting fees for David Park. Yeah, I'm interested. James Mitchell was 62 years old with hands like catcher's mitts and a handshake that made my bones creak. His office smelled like motor oil and coffee that had been sitting too long. Tom says you're good with numbers. I try. I've been running this place for 30 years. Last 5 years, profits keep dropping. Can't figure out why. My accountant says everything looks fine, but my gut says something's wrong. He handed me a box of files, invoices, purchase orders, payroll records, 5 years of operational data in no particular order. Give me a week, I said. It took me 3 days. I spread everything across Tom's dining table, built models, tracked vendor pricing, analyzed labor costs, found the pattern James's accountant had missed. His primary steel supplier had been incrementally raising prices every quarter for 4 years. Small increases, 2% here, 3% there. Not enough to trigger alarm, but compounded over time, it had eaten 30% of his margin. I showed him the spreadsheet on Thursday afternoon. James stared at it for a long moment. Then he picked up his phone and called his supplier. I listened to one side of the conversation, James's voice getting harder. No, I'm looking at 4 years of invoices right here. You've raised prices 16 times. Industry average went up 8%. You went up 32. A pause. Then I'll find a new supplier. We've done business for 20 years, but I'm not running a charity. He hung up, looked at me. How much do I owe you? $1,500. That's what Tom said. That analysis just saved me $300,000 a year. He pulled out his checkbook, wrote, handed me a check for $15,000. And here's a question. Why the hell are you working for someone else? I stared at the check. I never thought about going independent. Think about it. You just did in 3 days what my accountant couldn't do in 5 years. You're too smart to be sitting in corporate meetings pretending to care about quarterly targets. I drove back to my apartment with James's check in my jacket pocket and a thought I couldn't shake. What if he was right? 2 weeks later, Tom called again. James told his buddies about you. I've got 3 more business owners who want to hire you. You interested? For consulting? Yeah, real money, Marcus. Not side gig money. You could make this a thing. I looked around my apartment, the laptop on the dining table, the work I'd been phoning in for weeks. Yeah, I said, I'm interested. Meanwhile, Ryan's world was starting to crack. Tom's contact at TechPoint, Steve from operations, sent updates via Tom. HR brought Ryan in for a closed-door meeting. 2 hours. He came out looking pale. They're investigating the expenses? That's the word. Compliance is going through everything. His submitted reports, credit card records, restaurant confirmations. Tom grinned. Somebody really did their homework. Ryan was sweating, and I hadn't even made my real move yet. Sarah and I met every week to discuss the divorce case, strategy sessions in her conference room, updates on Vanessa's counter motions, discovery requests. But one afternoon, after we'd finished reviewing depositions, she closed her folder. You want coffee? Off the clock? We walked to Corvus Coffee Roasters on Champa Street, sat outside despite the October chill. She ordered an espresso. I got drip coffee. You're handling this better than most, she said. Most men in your position fall apart or do something stupid. Give me time, I might still do something stupid. She smiled. Actually smiled, not the professional courtesy smile. Just don't do it before we win your case. We talked about things that weren't the divorce. Her art hobby, watercolors, mostly landscapes, my hiking habit, 14ers when I could find time. The Broncos game we'd both watch Sunday. For the first time in months, I laughed, really laughed. And then I felt guilty. Like I was betraying Vanessa by enjoying a conversation with another woman, until I remembered she'd betrayed me first. Sarah must have seen something change in my face. You okay? Yeah, this is weird. What is? Feeling okay. Feeling like maybe things could be okay. I looked at her. Does that make sense? Perfect sense. She finished her espresso. Marcus, you're allowed to move forward. That's not betrayal. That's survival. The deposition happened on a gray morning in November. Vanessa sat across the conference table in a navy suit, her attorney, Mitchell Barnes, beside her, Sarah next to me. A court reporter in the corner. Barnes started. Mrs. Brennan, let's begin with the nature of your relationship with Ryan Caldwell. Vanessa's jaw tightened. He's a colleague. Just a colleague? A pause. No. Can you elaborate? She glanced at me. I kept my face blank. We were involved. Romantically? Yes. For how long? 7 months. Sarah made a note. 7 months. 2 months longer than the credit card record showed. She'd been lying even longer than I'd thought. And did you use joint marital funds to finance this relationship? Vanessa's voice dropped. Yes. How much, approximately? I don't know, a few thousand. $8,300, Sarah said, according to the credit card statements Mr. Brennan provided. Vanessa looked at me then. Really looked, like she expected me to break down, to show emotion, to give her something. I looked at her like a stranger, because that's what she was now. I registered the LLC on a Tuesday afternoon. Brennan Analytics Consulting, $267 to the Colorado Secretary of State. A website template from Squarespace. Business cards printed at FedEx. It felt surreal, like playing pretend, until James Mitchell called on Thursday. Marcus, you available? My buddy Greg needs help. Manufacturing outfit in Inglewood. Same problem I had. Margin shrinking, can't figure out why. What's the scope? 2 weeks, maybe 3. He'll pay $12,000. I did the math in my head. $12,000 for 3 weeks was more than I made in 6 weeks at my corporate job. I'll take it. Greg's problem was different than James's. Not supplier pricing, labor inefficiency. His workers were spending 40% of their time waiting for materials because the inventory system was garbage. I built him a new tracking model, connected it to their ERP system, showed his operations manager how to use it. 3 weeks later, Greg called. Marcus, our productivity just jumped 18%. What do I owe you? We said $12,000. I'm sending you 20, and I'm telling everyone I know about you. Word spread. James told his friend Richard. Richard told his accountant. The accountant had 3 clients who needed help. By the end of the first month, Brennan Analytics had invoiced $140,000. I sat in my apartment staring at the number on my laptop screen. $140,000. More than I'd made in a quarter at my old job. Tom came over with beer to celebrate. Told you, you're too good to waste in corporate. This doesn't feel real. It's real, little brother. You're just getting started. But while I was building something new, I had unfinished business with Ryan Caldwell. David Park's email sat in my drafts folder for 3 days. Subject line: TechPoint Solutions, Expense Irregularities. 22 pages of documentation, proof of Ryan's fraud, ready to send to TechPoint's CFO. I stared at it at 2 a.m, cursor hovering over the send button. Sarah had said I didn't have to do this. The divorce case was strong without it. But this wasn't about the divorce anymore. Ryan had stolen from his company, lied on expense reports, charged personal dinners and hotel rooms as business expenses. $47,000 over 18 months. If he'd done it to TechPoint, he'd do it again somewhere else. I called Sarah. The Ryan thing, the expense fraud. Should I send it? She was quiet for a moment. You don't have to do this. The divorce case is strong without it. It's not about the divorce. If he's stealing from his company, they deserve to know. Just make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. I am. He hurt me, but he's also a thief. Another pause. Then send it. I clicked send. 3 days later, Tom texted. Ryan just got called into a meeting with HR and the CFO. Steve says he looked like he was going to puke. I was in a client meeting when Ryan called. I let it go to voicemail, listened to it later in my car. Marcus? His voice was tight, barely controlled. Was it you? Did you send that bullshit to my CFO? Because if you did, you're going to regret it. You hear me? You're going to fucking regret it. I called him back. He answered on the first ring. You son of a... Ryan, I don't know what you're talking about, but if someone reported financial irregularities, maybe you should have been more careful. Don't play dumb. You're the only one who'd... Actually, Ryan, I'm not. You pissed off a lot of people. Maybe one of them got tired of watching you steal. I didn't steal anything. No, so those client dinners at Guard and Grace, the ones where the clients were never actually there, those were legitimate business expenses? Silence on the other end. Here's the thing about fraud, Ryan. It's not about intent. It's about what you can prove, and someone proved it. I kept my voice calm, even. You brought this on yourself. You're going to regret this. No, Ryan, I really don't think I will. I hung up. 2 weeks later, TechPoint placed Ryan on administrative leave. Pending investigation. The Meridian Tech deal, the $8.9 million contract Ryan had been managing for 6 months, stalled immediately. The client relationship was built on Ryan. Without him, there was no relationship. Tom's contacts said the deal would probably collapse. TechPoint would lose $8.9 million in revenue, and Ryan would never work in enterprise software again. Justice, it turned out, didn't need my help. It just needed time. Meanwhile, the divorce moved forward. Sarah called on a Wednesday afternoon. Vanessa's attorney wants to settle. Already? The optics are bad for her. Affair with a coworker, spending marital funds, text messages about stringing you along until her stock vests. Sarah paused. Barnes knows she's in a weak position. He's proposing 60-40 split. You get 60% of all marital assets. I did the math. House equity, $740,000. Joint savings, $420,000. Retirement accounts, $690,000. Total, $1.85 million. 60% was $1.11 million. Vanessa would get $740,000. What about her stock options? 20% of the unvested options granted during the marriage. They'll vest over the next 2 years. Market value about $120,000 at current stock price. She agreed to this? She signed the offer this morning. Marcus, this is a good deal. You walk away with significantly more than half. What does she get? About $970,000 total, and she keeps her job, though her reputation there is pretty damaged. I sat in my car in a grocery store parking lot, phone pressed to my ear. A year ago, I would have been devastated by this conversation. The end of my marriage reduced to asset division and dollar amounts. Now, I just felt tired. Take it, I said. You're sure? I'm sure. I don't want to fight anymore. I just want it over. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Marcus, you won. You know that, right? Yeah, I said. I know. But winning felt emptier than I'd expected. The business, though. The business felt real. By month 3, I'd hired my first employee. Jessica Chen, junior analyst fresh out of CU Boulder. Smart, hungry. Reminded me of myself 5 years ago. You're really trusting me with the Patterson account? She asked on her first day. You're really capable of handling it. I've seen your work. She smiled. I won't let you down. She didn't. By month 4, I'd moved into actual office space. Small, 2 rooms in a building off 15th Street. But it had windows and a conference room and a sign on the door. Brennan Analytics Consulting. By month 5, I'd landed the big one, Data Flow Technologies, mid-sized tech firm with 200 employees. They needed someone to overhaul their entire analytics infrastructure, build new forecasting models, train their team. Annual retainer, $420,000. I sat in their CEO's office trying to keep my face neutral while my brain screamed. "We'll need monthly on-site visits," the CEO said, "quarterly strategy sessions, and access to your team for ad hoc questions." "We can do that." "Great. I'll have legal send over the contract." I shook his hand and walked out of his office building onto 17th Street. It was snowing, big fat flakes that melted on the sidewalk. I called Tom. "How'd it go?" he asked. "I just signed a $420,000 contract." "Holy shit." "Yeah?" "Marcus, He laughed. "That's insane. First year projection is $6.4 million in revenue before expenses, but still. You built that in 6 months. I stood on the sidewalk watching the snow. I built it in 6 months because I had to. Because she left me with nothing else to do." "Hey." Tom's voice got serious. "She didn't leave you with nothing. She left you free. There's a difference." He was right. I'd built in 6 months what I couldn't build in 6 years of marriage. Later that night, I met James Mitchell for drinks at the Denver Chop House. He'd become a friend, not just a client. "I never thought I'd say this," I told him, "but getting divorced was the best thing that ever happened to my career." James laughed, raised his whiskey. "Son, sometimes losing dead weight makes you faster." We clinked glasses. I thought about Vanessa, about the house we'd bought together, the future we'd planned, the life I'd thought I wanted. And I realized I didn't miss any of it. I missed who I'd thought she was. But that person had never really existed. The person who existed now, the one who'd spent $8,300 of our money on hotel rooms with Ryan, I didn't miss her at all. The divorce finalized on a cold January morning. Judge's signature on paper. 6 years of marriage dissolved in 12 minutes of legal proceedings. Sarah met me outside the courthouse. "How do you feel?" "Like I should feel something more than I do." She nodded. "That's normal. The grief happened months ago. This is just paperwork." We walked to her car. She hesitated with her hand on the door handle. "So, you're officially not my client anymore." "I guess not. Which means I don't have a conflict of interest policy issue anymore." I looked at her. Really looked. She was nervous. Sarah Whitman, who'd stared down aggressive divorce attorneys and hostile depositions without flinching, was nervous. "Are you asking me something?" I said. "I'm asking if you'd want to have dinner. Not coffee, not a strategy session. Dinner." I should have felt guilty. 6 hours divorced and already saying yes to dinner with another woman. But I didn't feel guilty. I felt something I hadn't felt in a year. Hope. "Yeah," I said. "I'd like that." We went to Fruition Restaurant on 6th Avenue. Small, intimate, the kind of place where conversations happened in low voices and nobody rushed you through your meal. Sarah ordered wine. I got the same. We talked about everything except divorce and business. She told me about growing up in Fort Collins, her parents who'd wanted her to be a doctor, her decision to go to law school instead. They came around eventually, especially after I bought them a new car with my first year's bonus. I told her about hiking, the 14ers I'd climbed, the ones still on my list. I did Long's Peak 3 years ago, 14 hours round trip. My legs didn't work right for a week. You like pushing yourself. I like knowing I can. She studied me over her wine glass. "You know what I noticed about you from the first meeting?" "What?" "You never played victim. You were hurt, obviously, but you never wallowed. You just acted. I didn't know what else to do. Most people don't act. They freeze, or they lash out, or they make it worse." She set down her glass. "You made it better." The waiter brought our entrees. We ate slowly. The conversation shifted. "Can I ask you something personal?" Sarah said. "Sure." "Are you worried you're damaged goods?" I stopped mid-bite. "How did you—" "Because I was." She met my eyes. "My ex-husband cheated with his paralegal. Cliché, right? And for 2 years after the divorce, I thought there was something wrong with me, like I'd failed some test. What changed? I realized I didn't fail. I trusted someone who didn't deserve it. That's not a character flaw. That's just being human. I set down my fork. I keep thinking I should have seen it coming. The late nights, the phone behavior, all the signs were there. Marcus, her voice was gentle. You're not damaged. You're healing. There's a difference. Something in my chest loosened. Thank you. For what? For saying that. She reached across the table, touched my hand. You're going to be fine. Better than fine. I turned my hand over, held hers. For the first time in a year, I believed it. Tom noticed the change immediately. He came over on a Saturday morning with bagels and coffee, found me actually smiling at my laptop instead of grimacing at it. You seem different, good different. I feel different. Is it the business or is it Sarah? I looked up. Both, definitely both. He grinned, grabbed a bagel. Good. You deserve to be happy, Marcus. You've earned it. How's Rachel? The kids? Good. Emma made select soccer. Tyler's still convinced he's going to be a professional gamer. Tom paused. They ask about you. Wonder when Uncle Marcus is coming for dinner again. Soon, I promise. They miss you? We all do. He took a bite. Oh, thought you should know. Ryan got fired yesterday. I set down my coffee. For cause? Terminated for fraud. No severance. No recommendation letter. Companies considering legal action to recover the $47,000. Damn. Steve says the Meridian Tech deal collapsed completely. TechPoint lost the whole contract. $8.9 million down the drain. Tom watched my face. How do you feel about that? Honestly, I don't feel much. He did it to himself. That's growth, little brother. Or, I'm just tired of being angry. Same thing. But I wasn't quite done with the past yet. Vanessa texted me on a Sunday afternoon. First contact since the divorce finalized. Marcus, can we talk? I need to explain. I made a mistake. Can we meet for coffee? I stared at the message for a long moment. Sarah and I were supposed to go hiking that afternoon. Red Rocks. She was picking me up in 20 minutes. I texted back. There's nothing to talk about. I hope you figure things out. Take care of yourself. She responded immediately. Please, I just need closure. I showed the text to Sarah when she arrived. Do you want to meet her? She asked. No, I really don't. There's nothing she can say that matters now. Then don't, Sarah smiled. You don't owe her closure. She had 7 months to think about consequences. I turned off my phone. Let's go hiking. We drove to Red Rocks Park. The trail was empty, too cold for most people, but the air was clear and the sun was bright and Sarah's hand was warm in mine. Halfway up, she stopped to catch her breath. Can I tell you something? Always. I didn't think I'd ever want to date again after my divorce. Thought I was done with all of it. What changed? She looked at me. You did. You reminded me that not everyone's a liar. Some people actually mean what they say. I kissed her, right there on the trail with the red rocks towering around us and the city spread out below. When we pulled apart, she was smiling. Closure, she said. What? That's what Vanessa wanted, right? Closure. Sarah squeezed my hand. But you don't need it from her. You already have it. She was right. I didn't need Vanessa to apologize. Didn't need her to explain. Didn't need her to make me feel better about what she'd done. I'd already moved on. The past was the past. And for the first time in a year, the future looked better than anything I'd left behind. The invitation arrived in my email on a Tuesday morning. TechPoint Solutions. Annual company dinner. Saturday, March 15th. The Capitol Grill. 7 p.m. I stared at it. Someone had sent this to me. Either HR following some protocol about former spouses, or someone who wanted to see what would happen. I forwarded it to Sarah. She called 5 minutes later. Are you seriously considering this? I don't know. Maybe. Marcus, you don't have to prove anything to these people. I know. Then why go? I was quiet for a moment because I need to see it for myself, that I'm really free of it, of her, of all of it. Sarah sighed. Then go. But go from a position of strength. You're successful. You're happy. You've moved on. They haven't. That feels petty. Maybe, but it also feels satisfying. And Marcus, you've earned that. I bought a new suit. Charcoal gray, Brooks Brothers. The kind of suit I never would have bought when I was married because Vanessa would have said it was too expensive. Tom came over on Saturday afternoon, found me in front of the mirror, adjusting my tie for the third time. You nervous? Little bit? Why? You've already won. Then why am I going? Tom sat on my couch. You tell me. I turned from the mirror. I keep thinking about that moment, when I found the hotel receipt. The way my hands shook. The way I couldn't breathe. I paused. I want to walk into that room and not feel that anymore. You think seeing them will do that? I think I need to find out. Tom stood up, gripped my shoulder. Remember, you don't owe them anything. Not explanations, not anger, not satisfaction. You're going there for you, nobody else. I know. Then why are you going? I looked at him. Because I need to see that I'm really done, that it doesn't hurt anymore. He nodded. Then go. And Marcus, call me after. The Capitol Grill was exactly as I remembered. Dark wood, white tablecloths, the kind of place where expense accounts went to die. The hostess led me to the private dining room. I could hear voices before I saw anyone. Laughter, the clink of glasses. 25 people who used to be part of my life. I stood in the doorway for a moment. Nobody had noticed me yet. Vanessa was at the far end of the table. She looked tired, thinner than I remembered. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Ryan was next to her, arm draped over the back of her chair. But something was off. His suit didn't fit quite right. His confidence looked forced. Then Jennifer from accounting saw me. Her face went pale. The conversation stopped, one by one, until the only sound was the jazz playing through the speakers. I walked in. Hi, Jennifer. Good to see you. Marcus? Her voice was tight. We didn't expect... It's good to see you. You too. I found a seat near the end of the table, away from Vanessa and Ryan, ordered a whiskey, made small talk with the person next to me. Someone from IT I'd met twice before, but I could feel Ryan watching me, calculating, trying to figure out why I was there. It took him 20 minutes to make his move. Marcus, his voice cut through the conversation, too loud. Hey everyone, this is Vanessa's husband. Oh wait, ex-husband now. Sorry, hard to keep track. A few uncomfortable laughs. Most people studied their plates. I looked at him, calm, steady. Hi Ryan. Tell us, buddy, how does it feel? There it was. The moment I had been preparing for. How does what feel, Ryan? Being on the outside looking in. Must be tough, right? I mean, what do you even do now? I took a sip of my whiskey, set it down carefully. I started a consulting firm, analytics and forecasting. Been pretty busy, actually. Oh yeah? Consulting. He made it sound like a joke. What, like helping small businesses with their QuickBooks? More like overhauling enterprise analytics infrastructure, building forecasting models, strategic planning. I kept my voice conversational. It's been an interesting year. I bet, he grinned, must be hard going from a steady paycheck to whatever that is. Not really. First year will clear about $6.4 million in revenue, before expenses, of course. The table went quiet. Ryan's smile froze. What? Million. 6.4 million, give or take. I looked at him. How about you, Ryan? How's work going? His face changed. The confident mask slipped. I'm between opportunities right now. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I kept my voice neutral, curious. What happened? I thought you were VP? I was. There were some disagreements about expense reporting. Ah, I nodded. That's tough. Any leads on new positions? I'm consulting, taking some time to figure out my next move. Well, if you need any advice about going independent, let me know. It's not for everyone. I paused. It takes a certain kind of discipline, being your own boss, managing your own finances. Someone coughed. Someone else suddenly needed to use the restroom. Ryan's jaw tightened. I'm doing fine. I'm sure you are. I turned to the woman next to me. How's your daughter? Still playing soccer? The conversation moved on, but Ryan kept staring at me, trying to understand what had just happened. Vanessa hadn't said a word. I finished my meal, made polite conversation, told a few people about Brennan Analytics, exchanged business cards with someone who might actually become a client. At 9:30, I stood to leave. Vanessa caught me near the door, away from everyone else. Marcus, her voice was small, different than I'd ever heard it. Can we talk? I don't think there's anything to say. Please, I need to tell you I'm sorry. For all of it. For Ryan, for the money, for... Her eyes were wet. For everything. I looked at her. Really looked. She wasn't the woman I'd married. She wasn't even the woman who'd betrayed me. She was just someone I used to know. I know you're sorry, I said, and I hope you figure things out, Vanessa. I really do. That's it? After 6 years? What do you want me to say? I don't know. Something, anything. She wiped her eyes. You just moved on. Like I never mattered. You did matter. For a long time, you were everything. I paused. But you made choices, and I made choices, and now we're here. Do you hate me? No, I don't hate you. I don't really feel anything about you anymore. And honestly, that's better. She flinched like I'd hit her. Take care of yourself, I said. I walked out. Through the restaurant, into the parking lot, got in my car, sat there for a moment with my hands on the steering wheel, called Sarah. So, she asked, how did it feel? I thought about Ryan's frozen smile, Vanessa's tears, the way I'd walked through that room like I owned it. Honestly, less satisfying than I expected. I started the car, but also exactly what I needed. You sound lighter. I am. It's over, Sarah. Really over. Good. Come over. I'll open wine. I drove through downtown Denver. The city lights reflected off the snow. The radio played something I didn't recognize. I thought I'd gone there for revenge, to show them what they'd lost, to prove I'd won. But that wasn't it. I'd gone there for closure, to see them and feel nothing, to walk out and not look back, and I got it. Ryan could have his ego and his excuses. Vanessa could have her regrets and her apologies. I had something better. I had my life back. 6 months later, Brennan Analytics had 8 employees. Jessica had been promoted to senior analyst. We'd hired 2 more juniors, an office manager, and a part-time accountant who kept telling me I needed better tax planning. The office on 15th Street felt small now. We were looking at bigger spaces in Lodo, places with room to grow. Active contracts totaled $4.1 million. Recurring revenue, real business. The kind of thing that would exist whether I showed up every day or not. I'd built something that would last. Sarah and I were serious, not just dating, serious. We'd started talking about moving in together, her place or mine, or maybe something new. Something that was ours, not haunted by anyone else's past. She met Tom and his family, came to Sunday dinners, made Emma laugh with stories about terrible clients and courtroom disasters, helped Tyler with his math homework because apparently corporate lawyers were better at calculus than data analysts. She's good for you, Tom said one night after Sarah had left. You smile more. I'm happy. Yeah, I can see that. I didn't know what had happened to Vanessa. Not exactly. Tom's contact at TechPoint said she'd left the company, took a position somewhere else. Different city, fresh start. I hoped it worked out for her. I meant that. Not because I forgave her. Forgiveness was complicated. But because I didn't carry the weight anymore. She did. Ryan was working sales at a small software firm in Colorado Springs, a 45-minute commute, no VP title, no Tesla, no Cherry Creek condo, appropriate consequences, not destroyed, just diminished. He'd done it to himself, the fraud, the arrogance, the belief that he was untouchable. I didn't need him to suffer more than he already had. Justice had been served. Not by me, not really. By his own choices, by consequences he'd earned. They say living well is the best revenge. Turns out, they're right. Sarah and I took a trip in July, 5 days hiking through Rocky Mountain National Park, sleeping in a tent, cooking over a camp stove, no cell service, no emails, just mountains and trees and each other. On the last night, sitting by the fire, she asked me something. Do you ever think about what would have happened if Vanessa hadn't cheated? I stared at the flames. Sometimes. And? I think I would have stayed small, stayed safe, stayed in a job I didn't care about with a woman who didn't value me. I looked at her. I would have been fine, but I wouldn't have been happy. You think you needed it? The betrayal? No, I didn't need it, but I searched for the right words. It forced me to choose between being comfortable and being myself. I didn't even know I was making that choice until it was already made. She leaned against my shoulder. Someone asked me once if I regretted my divorce. I said no. Not the divorce, just the years I wasted before it. You think I wasted 6 years? I think you invested 6 years in learning who you are. That's not waste. That's tuition. I kissed the top of her head. You're smart, you know that? I'm a lawyer. Smart is literally the job requirement. We watched the fire burn down to embers. Marcus? Sarah's voice was quiet. Yeah? I love you. It was the first time either of us had said it. I pulled her closer. I love you too. A year ago, I'd been the guy who came home to an empty house and made coffee for a wife who was sleeping with someone else. Now I was the guy who built something real, who found someone who actually saw him, who looked at his life and felt grateful instead of angry. Someone asked me recently if I forgave Vanessa. I said yes, but forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation, doesn't mean forgetting, doesn't mean pretending it didn't hurt. It just means I don't carry the weight anymore. She does. I have better things to carry now, a business that matters, a relationship built on honesty, a future that's mine to shape. Ryan's humiliation at that dinner, Vanessa's tears, that moment when everyone realized I'd won, that wasn't the victory. The victory was waking up 6 months later and realizing I hadn't thought about either of them in weeks. The victory was building a life so good that revenge stopped mattering. The victory was choosing to thrive instead of just survive. I didn't need them to suffer. I just needed to thrive, and I did. Tom stood as best man at his friend's wedding that October. I brought Sarah as my date. We danced, we laughed. We made plans for Thanksgiving and Christmas and next summer's hiking trip. During the reception, Tom pulled me aside. A year ago, you were sitting in my kitchen with divorce papers and a broken heart. I remember. Look at you now. I looked across the room at Sarah. She was talking to Tom's wife, smiling at something Rachel said. Yeah, I said. Look at me now. You proud of yourself? I thought about it. The spreadsheets, the evidence, the strategy, the business, the hard choices, the painful growth. Yeah, I said. I am. Tom raised his glass. To second chances. I clinked my glass against his. To new beginnings. Because that's what this was. Not an ending. Not really. A beginning. The first chapter of a life I actually wanted to live. And it felt good. Better than revenge ever could.